in the heart of a peaceful village, where the river's whispers tell tales of old, an extraordinary story unfolds, one that blurs the lines between reality and the mystical. Every morning, Ada embarked on her journey to the river, a ritual as familiar as the rising sun. As Ada drew water, an unseen presence intertwined with her fate, setting forth a chain of events beyond imagination. As Ada walked home, the river behind her went silent. Even the wind paused, as if nature held its breath. That night, Ada could not sleep. Faint whispers tickled her ears, calling her name, yet no one was there. At midnight, the pot stirred, not by wind, not by hand. It tilted, then slowly crept across the room. Come morning, Ada found muddy footprints leading out of her home, small, unearthly, too small for a grown person, too wet for a dry hut. Fear gripped her heart. She went to the elders, guardians of forgotten tales. But when they heard her story, their faces changed as if a shadow had returned. Some say she merged with the river. Others say she found a vessel, a clay pot carried by an unsuspecting soul, a soul like Ada. That night it wept. The pot cried like a child, soft, rhythmic sobs that echoed through her bones. With trembling hands and a spirit no longer her own, Ada stepped into the forest of lost whispers, a place where silence was louder than screams. The air grew heavier. Each step felt watched. Every turn, she expected to see someone, something, following. By the time Ada reached the heart of the forest, the path had vanished. The trees no longer whispered. They stared. She stumbled upon a clearing where an ancient stone shrine stood, weathered, cracked, and covered in moss. On its surface, forgotten markings glowed faintly. A chill ran through her spine. She hadn't spoken a word in hours, yet she suddenly heard her own voice echoing, saying things she had never said. The shrine, it remembered, not just her, but generations she had never met. Something ancient stirred beneath her feet. The pot in her hands grew warm, almost alive. Ada clutched it tighter, trembling. Inside, something shifted, slowly, deliberately, like breath in a sleeping beast. She dare not speak. The shrine's carvings glowed brighter with each second of her silence. Then came the vision, a baby wrapped in cloth woven from river reeds, left at the edge of water where shadows fed. The woman in the black water, faceless yet familiar, whispered without sound. Was it her mother, a spirit, or a memory too buried to be real? Ada opened her eyes. The words "speak" on the shrine now faded, replaced with another, "return." The forest parted like a curtain as Ada walked on. She reached a dark river, still as polished glass, reflecting a moon that wasn't there. The trees bent forward, as if bowing to its edge. This was the river of forgotten names. Legend spoke of it, but only the lost ever found it. As she stepped closer, ripples formed with no wind. And then, she saw her. The mermaid-like figure rose slowly from the depths, her hair trailing like kelp, her bronze skin shimmering beneath the water. No words, just a stare, timeless, deep, as if she had been waiting centuries for Ada to arrive. The mermaid's hand slowly rose from the water, pointing to the pot in Ada's arms. Ada hesitated. This was her only protection. But something in her bones, in her very blood, told her the time had come. She stepped into the water, ankle deep. The river was warm, alive. As she lowered the pot into the surface, a current spun around her, and the pot began to dissolve. Not break, not sink, but dissolve into the river itself. The mermaid's eyes shimmered. From beneath the surface, hundreds of tiny lights rose upward. Souls? Memories? Ada stepped back, breathless. The word "remember" echoed all around her. As the last specks of light disappeared into the night sky, a soft voice, childlike, trembling, filled the air. "Mama." Ada froze. That voice, it echoed from within her. It wasn't in the air. It was in her blood. Her veins felt like rivers. Her heartbeat sounded like footsteps. And in the middle of the river, the mist parted again. A small figure emerged, barefoot, soaked, and glowing faintly. A child, maybe 5, with eyes identical to Ada's. The mermaid was gone. The child approached, lifted a hand, and whispered, "You forgot me." The mermaid-like spirit never spoke, but her eyes held a million untold stories. Around her, the water shimmered like glass, mirroring not the forest, but an ancient village burning slowly under a red sky. Ada couldn't tell if it was the past, the future, or something worse, a memory that never happened but longed to. The spirit raised one hand and traced a circle in the water. In its center, Ada saw a child's face, her own, but younger, crying. Then came the voice, not from the spirit, but from within Ada. "You were never alone, even when they made you believe you were." She stumbled back, the clay pot in her arms pulsing like a heartbeat. As Ada turned from the river, the mist thickened. She was no longer sure where the forest ended or if it ever had. A sharp sound, wood snapping, pulled her attention. An old man emerged, tall and crooked, wrapped in layers of bark and bones. The elder. His eyes burned like fire trapped in glass. "You've crossed the line, child," he said, though his lips never moved. "You carry a vessel meant for the dead." Ada tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "What is it?" she asked. The elder pointed at the pot. "It's not what it is, it's who it is." That night, under a silver moon that spun unnaturally in the sky, Ada sat across a fire the elder had lit with no wood. Flames danced silently, casting no heat. The elder spoke again, this time through her memories. She saw a child taken from a woman who screamed underwater. A council of masked faces watching silently. The clay pot wasn't just a relic. It was a container of a soul, a punishment sealed in clay. "To carry it is to inherit its debt," said the elder. "And debt draws collectors." Thunder cracked above, though no clouds were seen. The elder vanished by morning. No footprints, no ashes, just a trail of feathers leading deeper into the forest. Ada followed, though she knew not where it led. Her feet no longer ached. Her fear had become something else. Curiosity or courage, she couldn't say. Then ahead, she saw the one thing that didn't belong in this world. A broken train carriage, rusted and tilted, sitting in the middle of the jungle. And inside it, laughter. Not friendly, not human, just familiar. She stepped in. The unseen passenger was no longer unseen. The path narrowed into thorns. The air became thicker, as though time itself refused to pass. Ada's feet sank into the soil, now soft as memory, as if the earth mourned every step. Then she saw it. A door, ancient and breathing, carved into the bark of a giant tree. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat alive. Symbols glowed along its edges. One of them matched the mark that had appeared on her wrist hours ago. She reached out. As her fingers touched the bark, it sighed. The wind stopped. The trees bowed. The pot in her arms whispered a name she'd never spoken aloud. The door opened not with a creak, but with a breath, as if exhaling centuries. Inside, a chamber of floating lights, suspended memories trapped in glowing orbs. Each orb held a scene, and as Ada stepped closer, they swirled around her. A woman giving birth in a river cave, a crying man burying something wrapped in red cloth, a child standing alone at a shoreline, calling a name into the wind. Her knees buckled. One orb floated to her palm. It showed her mother's eyes, but behind those eyes was pain she had never imagined, the kind that only comes from choosing to forget your child to save her. Suddenly, the pot cracked. A thin fracture slithered across its surface like a living thing. Ada gasped. It wasn't just a container, it was a prison, and whatever was locked inside was no longer asleep. The chamber dimmed. The orbs froze. A low growl, inhuman, echoed through the roots beneath her. The elder's voice returned, but this time from within her own chest. "You open the path. Now, balance must answer." The crack widened. Something inside shifted, struggling, not to escape, but to speak. A sudden light blinded her. When her eyes adjusted, she was no longer in the chamber. She stood in a plain of white sand under a sky of silver smoke. A woman in white walked toward her, barefoot, her face veiled. Each step she took bloomed a flower behind her, red as blood. Ada's lips parted. She knew that walk, knew that presence. The woman raised her veil, revealing not age, but infinite grief. "You were hidden, not lost," she said. Ada dropped the pot. The crack sealed itself. Time held its breath. The orb in Ada's palm trembled violently. It no longer showed her mother. It showed a child, screaming underwater, arms stretched upward, bubbles rising like prayers unheard. Ada gasped. The clay pot began to glow, matching the orb's rhythm. She tried to drop it, but her fingers would not let go. A wind stirred within the chamber. Yes, wind inside the sealed room, circling her like a ritual. Then the orb cracked. A shriek, not human, ripped through the air. Something in that memory wanted to stay buried. Something that feared being seen. But Ada was no longer just a traveler. She was becoming a vessel of truth. When the vision faded, Ada noticed a bundle resting beside her feet, tattered red cloth soaked with old earth. She didn't remember it being there before. Her hands, trembling, reached out and unwrapped it. Inside, bones. Small, human, a child. Her breath caught, but etched into the skull were symbols, identical to those on the pot. She heard a voice again, soft and female. She was never buried. She was hidden. Ada looked around, but she was alone, or so she thought. Behind her, a presence formed. She turned and saw the ancient woman again, the one from her dream. Only now, her eyes were wet with sorrow. The ancient woman raised one frail hand and pointed to the back of the chamber. There, half buried in roots, was a stone, singing, not a melody, but a language. The earth around it trembled with every note. Ada walked toward it, the pot now heavier, as if resisting. The closer she got, the louder the song became. When her fingers touched the stone, time froze. Trees outside halted midsway. The woman vanished. The stone whispered her name, not once, but as though 1,000 ancestors called her through time. Adama. Adama. It was her full name. One she hadn't heard since childhood. One buried with her father. Ada froze. The ancient woman, draped in layers of time-worn cloth and salt-stained hair, stood in the corner of the chamber, eyes glowing like forgotten embers. But now, she wasn't a vision. She was real. More real than Ada herself felt in that moment. The woman's gaze carried the silence of storms, the depth of riverbeds that had swallowed generations. "You've seen her," the woman rasped, nodding toward the red bundle. She was the first, the one the river could not carry away. Ada clutched the pot tighter. Her voice cracked. "Who are you?" The woman smiled, not kind, but knowing. "I'm the in-between, the mouth that was closed when they lied. And now, I speak through you." The chamber began to dissolve. Not collapse, but shift, like water remembering it was once mist. Ada and the woman now stood beside a wide, ancient river under moonlight. But this river was not of earth. It shimmered silver, flowed upward, and whispered names as it passed. "This is where it began," the woman said, her voice echoing inside Ada's chest. "The first child, the first vow broken, the first lie swallowed by silence." In the middle of the river floated a boat made of bones and petals. Inside it lay the same child from a vision, eyes open, watching the stars. The clay pot hummed again. It was no longer just a container. It was remembering and calling. Suddenly, the pot glowed violently. Symbols danced across its surface like fireflies in panic. Ada dropped to her knees, clutching it as it pulsed in her arms. Then it spoke, not in words, but in waves. Waves of grief, betrayal, sacrifice. Images poured into her mind. A woman begging for her child's life, elders turning away, a secret burial beside a tree that no longer stood. Ada screamed, not from fear, but from the unbearable weight of knowing. The pot stopped glowing. The river turned red for a moment, and then clear. "You've been chosen to carry what they buried," said the ancient woman. "But be warned, once you carry memory, you cannot return empty." Ada stared in stunned silence as the silver river split, revealing a small wooden coffin drifting upstream against the current. Its lid was carved with ancient glyphs, the kind her grandmother used to whisper about in bedtime stories she now realized were never just stories. As the coffin passed, the symbols began to glow. The water beneath it hissed. The ancient woman placed a hand on Ada's shoulder. You must listen, not with your ears, but your spirit. She's trying to speak. And then a soft knock came from inside the coffin. Once, twice, then silence. Ada's heart thundered. Who knocks from the inside? The ancient woman began to hum, a low, ancestral melody that didn't come from her throat, but from the earth itself. Ada felt the vibration in her bones. The coffin stopped. Then, slowly, the lid slid open. But there was no child inside, only light. A voice rose from it, soft, sorrowful, yet strong. My name was erased, my song unsung. But you, Ada, carry my breath now. The air thickened with salt and memory. Ada fell to her knees, tears streaming. She didn't know this child, yet she felt her grief like an old wound. What do I do? She whispered. The ancient woman responded, You remember, loud enough for the world to listen. Suddenly, the river surged, not violently, but with urgency. Letters began to form in the current, glowing briefly before fading. Obianuju. Ada whispered it aloud. The river stilled. The air hushed. The name echoed across invisible mountains, into unseen valleys, and through time itself. The ancient woman nodded solemnly. Now she lives again. And with that, the river began to sing, not in words, but in memory, showing visions of a time before pain, before betrayal, before silence. Ada saw children dancing, families laughing, elders blessing the waters. Then flames, screams, the silence returned. They tried to burn her name, the woman said, but it was written in water. The woman took Ada's hand and dipped it into the glowing river. It stung, not painfully, but like truth awakening. Symbols raced up her arm, burning into her skin in light. You are marked, said the woman, not cursed, chosen. Ada stared at the marks. They pulsed with life. But why me? She asked. The woman didn't answer. Instead, she turned toward the far shore, where shadows danced. The others are waking, she said. Those who were never named, never mourned. They are waiting for the one who will speak them back into the world. And Ada knew this journey was far from over. The silver light from the coffin began to swirl, forming the silhouette of a young girl. Her hair woven in tiny braids, her eyes wide with unspoken truth. My name was Ngozi, the voice echoed, carried by a wind older than the river. They feared my light, buried me in silence. But silence grows restless. The ancient woman bowed her head. Ada whispered the name, Ngozi. As she spoke it, the river surged. Trees bent. The stars flickered. For the first time, Ngozi's spirit stood tall, no longer hidden in the folds of history. Ada's voice grew stronger. You are not forgotten. The moment Ada uttered Ngozi's name, echoes began to rise from the water.
Wow.
Names long erased, voices once silenced. One by one, spectral figures emerged around the riverbank. Mothers, daughters, wives, elders. They held symbols, inks, beads, broken dolls, all tokens of lives interrupted. You carry all of us now, said the ancient woman. Their truths rest in your breath, their justice in your steps. Ada stood, taller somehow, braver. The spirits didn't weep. They smiled. At last, they were being remembered. But remembrance comes with a price. The river's calm shattered. Waves thrashed violently, screaming in 1,000 voices. Ada screamed too, not in fear but release. A floodgate inside her soul burst. She saw flashes of past lives, women drowned in injustice, children hidden in shame, truth buried under generations of fear. The pot in her hand glowed crimson, cracked, and then exploded into dust. The ancient woman didn't flinch. She only smiled. Now it begins. The air stilled. A divine hush fell over the land. Ada stood alone now, but something in her had changed. Her eyes shimmered like the river. Her skin glowed faintly, as if painted by the spirits themselves. She was no longer just a passenger. She was the vessel, the voice, the memory, the prophecy. She turned toward the forest, where the Real journey waited. The forest knew her name now, and it would not let her pass without challenge. Behind her, the ancient woman whispered, It's your turn to be the storm. The ancient woman's voice deepened, and her eyes rolled back as she chanted in a tongue lost to centuries. The air thickened, vibrating with memory and power. Ada stood within a circle of glowing ancestral sigils, carved by invisible hands into the earth. The river's edge shimmered like glass, reflecting a starless sky. From the depths of the circle, a drumbeat began, slow, solemn, alive. This is the ritual of reckoning, the woman intoned, a passage not just through time, but through truth. You must not look away. As the beat quickened, shadows rose from the water with familiar eyes. The shadows circled Ada slowly, each one whispering her name, not the one she answered to, but the one buried in her blood. Nwadi, Nwadi, daughter of the silence breaker. Ada froze. That name. Only her grandmother ever called her that. The whispers weren't accusations. They were invitations. One shadow stepped forward. It wore her face, but younger, innocent, terrified. You forgot me, it said. You had to, Ada whispered. To survive. The girl nodded and began to dissolve into golden light. One by one, the others followed, becoming dust, stars, memory, until only Ada remained in the circle, glowing. Thunder cracked. The earth trembled. Then, silence. The glowing circle vanished, revealing a cracked veil in the air itself. A thin, shimmering wall between the seen and the unseen. Behind it, glimpses of another world. Children playing near lost villages, spirits watching from giant baobab trees, ancient gods walking among mortals. Step through, said the ancient woman, her voice trembling for the first time. But know this, when you cross, you do not return the same. Ada hesitated, then stepped forward. The veil swallowed her whole. Ada emerged into a world stitched together by memory. The trees whispered, and the ground pulsed with ancestral heartbeats. She stood in the land of unburied names, a realm between time and forgetting, where stories waited to be spoken again. Spirits of women, once erased by conquest and silence, approached her in a circle. They did not bow. They greeted her as one of their own. One stepped forward, her face identical to Ada's. I was your beginning, she said, but you must be our voice. Ada felt her chest burn, not with fear, but purpose. The time had come to remember out loud. As the last shadow faded into stardust, the earth trembled beneath Ada's feet. The ancient woman raised her staff, and the circle around them cracked open. A gate of shimmering mist emerged from the rift, arched like bone, breathing like a heartbeat. Beyond this gate lies the truth you were never meant to hold, she said. Ada's heart pounded. From inside the mist, she heard her own voice calling out, but younger, lost, afraid. You must walk through Nwadi, the woman whispered. But not everyone returns with their mind whole. Still, Ada stepped forward, the mist swallowing her whole. Inside the mist, time melted. Ada saw flashes, her mother hiding letters, her father staring blankly into the fire, her young self drawing symbols no one taught her. Then, the image of the unseen passenger. Not just a woman, a prisoner, trapped in the back seat of history. Her eyes met Ada's. They sealed me in your bloodline, the voice thundered. Generation after generation, I waited. For you. Ada dropped to her knees, visions clawing through her skull. Screams, betrayals, fire. She was not the first to carry this burden, but she might be the last to break it. Out of the mist, a river of red flowed, liquid memory. It rushed around Ada's feet, not drowning, but revealing. Faces surfaced in the water. Her great-grandmother, a midwife burned as a witch. Her aunt, taken in silence. Her cousin, vanished without trace. All carried pieces of a curse. All silenced. We bled truth. A voice said, so you could speak it. Ada stood, trembling. In her hand now appeared a talisman, etched with every name she had forgotten. A gift, a weapon, a choice. Break the silence or become it, the voice warned. The mist pulsed. The gate flickered behind her. The mist around Ada surged like waves, pulling her deeper. Then silence. In the stillness, a single drop of glowing crimson fell from above, landing on her palm. It didn't burn. It pulsed like a heartbeat, An ancient voice, layered and female, rose from the dark. The oath was carved into blood before your first breath. Now, you must awaken it. A sigil appeared on her skin, one she had drawn as a child. Her pulse quickened, her breath caught, and suddenly, she was not alone. Ancestors stood around her, faces she'd never seen, but eyes she somehow knew, watching, waiting, judging. A voice echoed, not from one but many. We are the unseen, bound by silence, hidden by fear. We watch them erase us from the songs, the stories, the shrines. Ada turned in a slow circle as their words filled the air like thunder and wind. Each ancestor spoke with grief, but also fire. Your line was cursed not because of sin, but because of truth. Truth they feared you'd one day find. Ada's hands trembled. The weight of their gaze was unbearable. But one elder stepped forward, her eyes ageless, her voice iron and honey. Child, will you carry us, or run like they all did before you? Ada closed her eyes. For the first time, she stopped listening and started remembering, not what she was told, but what she felt. Her chest rose, her lips parted, and in the language of the forgotten, she spoke. I do not carry you in fear. I carry you in fire. The mist trembled. The ancestors bowed, not in worship, but in recognition. The elder smiled. Then it begins. A massive gust tore through the veil, and light poured into the realm. Ada's body glowed from within, her feet lifting slightly off the ground. The blood oath was no longer dormant. It lived within her awakened. From the light, a figure emerged, the same woman Ada had seen glimpses of in mirrors and dreams. The unseen passenger, but now fully visible, regal, ethereal, wearing robes stitched with symbols Ada had once feared. You gave me voice, the woman said. Now I give you memory. She stepped forward, placing her palm to Ada's forehead. And suddenly, Ada saw everything. The first betrayal, the sealing of spirits, the rewriting of history, all of it. She gasped as lifetimes of stolen memory poured into her like fire through an open door. The touch of the unseen passenger ignited 1,000 suns behind Ada's eyes. She screamed, not from pain, but from the intensity of truth. Visions flooded her mind. A kingdom ruled by women of sight, erased by jealous kings. A sacred forest burned to silence the seers. Her bloodline betrayed by one of their own, marked and cursed to wander. But they were not victims. They were witnesses, carriers, vessels. Ada dropped to her knees, clutching her head, sobbing as the memories danced like fireflies and stung like bees. The truth wasn't just power, it was heavy. The elder stepped forward, her voice both thunder and lullaby. The curse was not punishment, it was protection. Your bloodline was hidden in shadow to preserve the light. Only when one would dare to see would the veil lift. Ada looked up, breathing hard. Why me, she asked. The elder's eyes narrowed. Because you didn't run, and because your shadow still walks the earth. Ada's heart stilled. She wasn't the only one carrying the curse. Someone else bore the mark. But who? In the forest above, far from Ada's journey, a young man stood at the edge of an ancient lake. His eyes were haunted, his veins flickering with the same light as Ada's. He didn't speak. He only listened to the whispers beneath the water. A raven landed on his shoulder. It whispered his name, Obesai, and in that moment, he remembered her, a girl with fire in her voice and sadness in her eyes. He didn't know where she was, but he knew he had to find her before the curse found him first. Two souls, two stories, one destiny. As Ada rose to her feet in the spirit realm, Obesai took his first step toward her in the physical world. Neither knew of the other fully, but their blood knew, their scars aligned, their paths drawn like lightning across time. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, a third presence stirred, watching them both, waiting, feeding. Ada followed the echoing footsteps deeper into the cave, where time no longer moved in a straight line. The air was thick, like breathing in stories buried beneath centuries. She saw her younger self again, but this time, the girl wasn't afraid. She pointed forward, toward a shimmering mirror made of water. Ada stepped close, and the reflection didn't match her. It was Obesai. He was screaming silently, trapped behind glass, reaching for her. Her heart raced. How could they be so close, yet worlds apart? Suddenly, the unseen passenger reappeared beside Ada. His face now familiar. Her great-grandfather, once cursed, once lost. "You've seen too much," he whispered, his voice laced with dread. "The Watcher knows your scent now, and obey sighs. If he finds either of you, the curse will not break. It will evolve." Ada turned toward the reflection, but Obesai was gone, replaced by darkness. Something had entered the mirror, and it was staring back. The spirit world began to shake. The cave collapsed in slow motion, but not before Ada was pulled through a spiral of light by the Elder. "You weren't supposed to go that far," the Elder scolded. "You've awakened the eye." As they re-emerged into the forest, a full moon shone overhead, blood red. The earth below trembled. From a distance, Obesai collapsed to the ground, clutching his heart. Their connection was tearing the realms, and now they had less time than they thought. As Ada knelt beside the Elder in the forest, she whispered, "What is the eye?" The Elder's face turned cold. "It was the first of us, a seer betrayed by love, buried beneath silence. If it wakes fully, every bearer of the curse will fall in love with their doom." Suddenly, from the trees, a figure emerged. Obesai, bleeding, limping, glowing. But something was wrong. His eyes weren't his. They shimmered with red fire. And then he spoke, not with his voice, but with the eyes. And just like that, destiny took its next cruel turn. Obesai is no longer just a bearer. He's a vessel. But what does the eye truly want? Why is Ada still alive? And who among them all will betray the other first? You can't miss what happens next. Next part will break the veil wide open. Subscribe now at Echoes Africa Stories and turn on the notification bell, because the next episode will shatter everything you thought you knew.